guys, this is Janelyn Bolivar. This blog provides an information about the meaning, characteristics, and functions of culture. But before we start, I need your support to subscribe this channel. So just hit the subscription button now. The customs, traditions, attitudes, values, norms, ideas, and symbols govern human behavior pattern. The society does not only endorse these things because they are part of the society already and they help molding the behavior. They consider as a member of society because of the traditions and customs which are common and which are passed down from generation to generation through the process of socialism. To be able to fully understand what is the meaning of the word culture, here are some of meaning of the word culture. Culture. An individual is described as highly cultured person. It means that there are certain features that makes us different from others. In other words, we have a certain personal characteristics and these are the features of culture described in individual as highly cultured person. Here are some features of culture: speech, manner, taste of literature, music, and painting. Culture. Used in popular discourse. It means that culture can be used also in celebration or an evening of entertainment. In other words, it is defined as an art or aesthetic like dance, music, and or drama. Example of this is the cultural show. Anthropology and sociology. Anthropology and sociology refers to the sum of human beings' life, ways, their behavior, beliefs, and thoughts, meaning everything that connotes them as social beings. There are lots of meaning or how we can define culture, and these are some of the sociologists and anthropologists gives their own perspective about culture. One of the most comprehensive definitions of the term culture was provided by the British anthropologist Edward Tylor. He said that complex whole which includes knowledge, belief, art, morals, law, custom, and any other capabilities and habits acquired by man as a member of society. Some writers says other capabilities and habits such as language and techniques for making and using tools. Sutherland and Wood says that if culture exists only where there is communication, then the content of culture can be ideas or symbol patterns. Culture is then an immaterial phenomenon only, a matter of thoughts and meanings and habits and not of visible and touchable material things or objects. A British anthropologist, Malinowski, says that material elements that are made are used in accordance with socially inherited tradition and that we call cultured objects. It is a components that bind us together in society, inherited artifacts, implements, and consumer goods and social structure. Cooley, Argyll, and Carr says that the entire accumulation of artificial objects, conditions, tools, techniques, ideas, symbols, and behavior patterns peculiar to a group of people possessing a certain consistency of its own and capable of transmission from one generation to another. McIlverne says that culture is the expression of our nature in our modes of living and our thinking, intercourse in our literature, in religion, in recreation, and enjoyment. E.A. Hubel says that culture is the sum total of integrated learned behavior patterns which are characteristics of the members of a society and which are therefore not the result of biological inheritance. Bierstedt says that culture is a complex whole that consists of everything we think and do have as members of society. Anderson and Parker says that culture is the total content of the physio-social, biosocial, and psychosocial universe man has produced and the socially created mechanisms through which this social product operates. And lastly, H.T. Mazumdar says that Culture is the sum total of human achievements, material as well as non-material, capable of transmission sociologically, example by tradition and communication, vertically as well as horizontally. And to summarize them all, we may define culture as the sum total of human achievements and can be transmitted by the means of communication and tradition from generation to generation, considering the difference from other culture because of the different lifestyles and social pattern. It is a moral, intellectual, and spiritual discipline in accordance with norms and values. Characteristics of culture. 1. Learned behavior. Not all is learned, but most of it is learned. It means that there are behaviors that gives us learning or not, and sometimes the conscious and unconscious learning are used to distinguish the learning. Some behavior is obvious or covert behavior. For example, feeling hatred to someone. 2. Culture is abstract, shared ways of doing and thinking. Culture exists in the minds or habits of the members of society. It occurs regularly that is visible to us. Example, rip, tuck, plump, and tattoo our bodies. 3. Culture is a pattern of behavior. In general rule, behavior are somewhat integrated or organized with related behaviors of other persons. It is a person's behavior often depends on someone or something that may influence his or her behavior. For example, be yourself. 4. Culture is the product of behavior. Cultural learnings are the products of behavior. If a person's behave, his or her behavior would change, and that is the starting point of grown up from his or her previous behaviors. Example, learning from your past. 5. Culture includes attitudes, values, and knowledge. Uniqueness of one's own attitudes and ideas. It is having your own perspective or ideas, attitudes, and notions which they have as their own. Example, in religion, Catholic and Protestant, they believe in Jesus. 6. Culture also includes material objects. Man's behavior results in creating objects. To create an object, it needs numerous and various skills. Man invented something to use. Example, to chair from tree. 7. Culture is shared by the members of society. Patterns of learned behavior and the results of behavior are possessed not by one or a few persons. It involves millions of people share such behavior. Example, the use of automobile. Persons may share some part of a culture unequally. Example, Americans do a Christian religion. We have to consider also that Americans have their religion same to us. Sometimes, the people share different aspects of culture. Example, Catholic layman, Protestant clergyman. Catholic and Protestants are both Christians and they praise the same God, although there are some are not. 8. Culture is super-organic. Culture is somehow superior to nature. It means it implies that what may be quite a different phenomenon from a cultural point of view. Example, a tree from different things. A farmer picks its fruit. 9. Culture is pervasive. It touches every aspect of life. 2 ways of manifestation. First, culture provides an unquestioned context within which individual actions and response take place. Not only emotional action, but relational actions are governed by cultural norms. Second, culture pervades social activities and institutions. According to Ruth Benedict, a culture, like an individual, is a more or less consistent pattern of thought and action. With each culture, there come into being characteristics, purposes not necessarily shared by other types of society. In obedience to this purpose, each person further consolidates its experience, and in proportion to the urgency of this drives the heterogeneous items of behavior take more and more congruous shape. 10. Culture is a way of life, means being simply the way of life of a people or their design for living. According to Clark Hahn and Kelly, A culture is a historically derived system of explicit and implicit designs for living, which tends to be shared by all or specially designed members of a group. Explicit culture refers to words or actions that can be observed directly, while implicit culture which is not quite obvious. 11. Culture is a human product. Culture is not a force operating by itself and dependent of the human actors. A culture is a creation of society in interaction. In short, is a human product and not independently endowed with life. 12. Culture is idealistic. Culture embodies the ideas and norms of a group. It consists of the intellectual, artistic, and social ideals and institutions. It is sum total of the ideal patterns and norms of behavior of a group. 13. Culture is transmitted among members to society. Cultural ways are learned person by person. Some of our learning are coming from our elders like parents, teachers, and the transmission of this happens among contemporaries. Example, style of dress. 14. Culture is continually changing, unending change. The fact is, culture is continually changing. It takes slowly and some did not feel it, but they are changing even though it is not obvious. 15. Culture is variable. Culture varies from society to society, group to group. In one country, we cannot say that they did not differ in culture. We have to think also that there are subcultures. 16. Culture is an integrated system, possesses an order and system. Example, social structure and institutions. Under it is the social interaction and behavior. And under it is the cultural features. Cultural features has in norms, beliefs, and values. 17. Language is a chief vehicle of culture. Language that a man used to transmit accumulated wisdom to next generation. Language is the most important in transporting culture from the past up to the present. Functions of culture. As we find widely shared beliefs, norms, values, and preferences, cultural seems to be universal to human phenomena, so it occurs naturally. This curiosity raises the question of the functions of culture. Culture has a functions for both individual and society. 1. Culture defines situations. Each culture has many subtle cues which define each situation. Example, outstretched hand in a waist level. It depends on how it was interpreted, like some people think he wishes a shake hand, but try to think as well that we have a different culture. Some place that outstretched hand mean hostility or warning. 2. Culture defines attitudes, values, and goals. Each person learns in his culture what is good, true, and beautiful. Individually, we learn unconsciously. Attitudes are tendencies to feel and act in a certain ways. Values are measurement of goodness or desirability, and goals are those attainments which our values define as worthy. Example, winning a race. 3. Culture defines myths, legends, and supernatural. We cannot understand behavior of a group without knowing something of these beliefs they hold. It is important part of a culture to deepen our understanding of every culture by knowing this. 4. Culture provides behavior patterns, maps out the path to matrimony. All of us have a procedures to follow to be organized, and it will limits on human activities. In society, we have rules and norms to be followed. Without this, it would be chaos for us, like a street without a traffic signs. It confuses us. Culture and society. According to Ralph Linton, a society is an organized group of individuals. A culture is an organized group of learned responses. The individual is a living organism capable of independent thought, feeling, and action, but with his independence limited and all his resources profoundly modified by contact with the society and culture in which he develops. It means that society cannot exist apart from culture. They are connected to each other because society is made of persons and groupings. These people will carry the culture, but they are not the culture. Culture exists because of the people, like mind and body. They are interdependent and interacting.
And that would be all, guys. Thank you for watching and listening to this vlog.